Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The silver light shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. There's two great scientific conjectures that we are lucky enough to live in the time when we are starting to fill those variables in. The first is the Drake equation. The Drake equation started life as a scribbled down formula on a chalkboard. And it was just an idea of how many potential planets out there might support not only life, but sapient life. In other words, life that can think and reason the similar way we do. And we could plug numbers into that, but it was in the 40s or the 50s. I don't remember which. So they had a very inexact picture of how many stars had planets. They were way off. They said 1 in 10. Well, it's like, from what we're observing, every star has a planet. Not all of those are qualified for life, but that's the next figure down. But we're kind of able to fill in that. And you know what? It's every star has at least one planet, maybe more. That's looking pretty good because the rest of the equation just reduces by 1 in 10, 1 in 10, 1 in 10, and you still wind up with thousands of possible civilizations. And we've been watching the skies ever since, and another wonderful man named Enrico Fermi came up with the Fermi Paradox, which says if we have all these planets, why haven't we received a communication or evidence or anything to prove the Drake equation right? Here's where the answers get interesting. So, like I said, we know almost every single star has a planet around it. And the scientists are really having trouble figuring out which ones really have life. There's the famous TRAPPIST system, in which from the sun to the Earth's orbit, there's like 5 planets there, and there's another 4 or 5 planets that go out to, say, Jupiter. I might be wrong on those, but so you've got these 10 planets, a lot of which sit inside the so-called Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks zone is where the temperature is perfect to where you might get water, and if you're going to get water, there's a good chance you're going to get life. The problem is they're based around a red dwarf, which, aside from being a brilliant British science fiction comedy series, is a much smaller and dimmer star to what a yellow dwarf, which is what our sun is. They're both dwarves, but like there's a difference in 10 times in terms of magnitude. Get a lot of 10s in the universe that you'll find out about. So the question is, we know about these planets. The JWST is starting to be able to image their atmospheres, which is, yeah. I remember in 1988, they were saying there's no way we will ever be able to see a planet around another star. It's not that long ago, which says it would never be possible. But then again, you go back far enough, there's no way that anybody will be ever able to fly, and nobody can possibly go faster than 60 kilometers per hour. These are all real things that reasonably intelligent scientists who had otherwise good track records have said. We've proved them all wrong. But right now we're still fighting to plug variables into the Drake equation and to resolve the Fermi Paradox. Now, since the Drake equation is long and a little bit erudite, and it has a depressing final category, which is who survives their nuclear age, which we're in the middle of doing. We're ready to break out into a type 1 civilization if we just don't kill each other first. That's how exciting the future is for humanity. Imagine once that happens, we'll be in a better position to evaluate where our closest friends might be. But let me give you another hypothesis. What if we are the youngest and oldest civilization in our neck of the woods? Because even if we take our present technology and we were going to do this science fiction stuff with sleeper ships and generation ships and just spread out amongst to the galaxy with our present day technology, it would be admittedly really expensive and really risky, but it is just on the verge of possibility. I don't know where you're getting the investment from. I don't know where you're getting the people from. But like I said, it's just barely possible. Another 20, 30 years, it should be much more possible after SpaceX, NASA, and all the rest of them really start doing what they want to be doing. So one of the postulates of why we're not seeing any other life signs out there is we got lucky enough to have all the breaks go our way. This seems illogical because the dinosaurs were around and they got wiped out 75 million years ago. So it basically took the entire age of the Earth plus 75 million years to arrive where I can talk to you over the internet and you can listen to me. Remember the days of the telegraph? Probably not, but it was a valid technology that existed, and it took 75 million years past the dinosaurs to actually evolve that. If I had a telegraph for you today, even a telegram, you wouldn't really know what to do with it. And that's not an insult to your intelligence one bit. It's just the fact that people no longer study Morse code, aside from maybe Boy Scouts and, really bored engineers. So we look at this, and everything around us is more or less middle-aged. There's some things that are younger, there's some things that are older, but everything is about midway through its life. But we were not the first things to evolve in the universe. No, they have generations of stars. On our current generation of stars, there do seem to be a lot of them, but again, not every star is lucky enough to have an Earth-type planet orbiting it. A little bit of a crapshoot. So, when we decide in our minds how this reflects on aliens and how they're able to contact us, we have to figure out, first of all, how long would it take us with our present day technology, and I'm talking nuclear propulsion. I'm not talking about our crappy little chemical rockets or this laser sail propulsion, which they keep bringing up, but personally I think it's a terrible idea because, first of all, you have to send the brake to whatever star that you intend to go to, hope it gets there, hope it works after being in space for 5, 10, 15, 40, 50 years, whatever it might be. And then it has to slow down. And there's nothing there to slow it down, so it's had to carry half of its fuel with it. So the laser sail, while I think it's fascinating, and I think it might actually become, the racing of the future, but right now we're pretty much stuck with the nuclear option. Now, we get pulses all the time all over the place, but they don't seem to be regular enough for it to be evidence of aliens using nuclear propulsion. We don't get radio signals in, and we have been unknowingly sending radio signals out for about 123 years now, give or take. They'd be very faint, but they're definitely detectable, especially for an advanced species on our level-ish. So, what would we really be expecting to see? Quite frankly, I don't expect us to see anything. It would take us about 1 million years to spread out over most of the Milky Way with our crappy little technology that we have today. And yeah, if that were happening, the galaxy would be full of tons of aliens. If they're aggressive, they might have already conquered us because we do have resources, and I don't know whether humans make tasty eating, but we probably make pretty decent warriors because we're pretty damn savage. But you'd figure anybody who's territorial and expansive would also make pretty good warriors. So I don't know why they would conquer us, but at the same token, it's a possibility. That makes the Fermi Paradox even more suspicious, because any culture advanced enough to conquer us would have probably wanted to do so about 100 years ago when people were still running around with a Model T, a horse and buggy, and airplanes that would set on fire if you stared at them the wrong way. Nowadays, when we're getting lasers on jets and rail guns, all sorts of technology where we could legitimately start to fight back against a Type 1 civilization, this is a crappy time to conquer us. They had thousands of years they could have showed up and they have spears, we have shields, we have laser swords, whatever else that they might consider interesting. So conquest would probably not be a motivation for aliens to contact us or to show up on our front doorstep. God, I hope that one ages well. What we're looking at, I honestly think, is we are the evolutionary vanguard in this area. We are the old ones. We are the ancients. Someday we will pass on our knowledge. We have observations of the what do you call it? The cosmic orbital microwave background, the leftover of the Big Bang, which they might not be able to see because it will have faded out. But we'll be able to say, here we go. This fills in the equations that you're looking at. We might be the ones to pass on our experience, our knowledge, and our values. And doesn't that scare the hell out of you? We might actually bear the responsibility of truth, justice, and the Earth way. The human way, the Terran way. We need a better name for our species. We honestly do. Like, you get something like Cylons, cyborgs, Borg, the Daleks, whatever it is. It's like every other creature has a cooler name than we do. But they probably exist, say, somewhere like the Andromeda Galaxy, about 2 million years away. It's going to hit us in 4 to 5 million years. If we're still around then, we'll get first look at whatever the heck's happening over there. But by then, who knows what our technology will be like and what their technology will be like. But the silence of the stars is really what interests me, because it doesn't make sense. I believe in a God. I believe in a creator. I believe that they're non-interventionalist. Like, they might come down to stop us if we trigger a full nuclear war. Or they might say, I already had plans for that. These little people on this island, they're going to survive. They're going to repopulate the Earth. They're really clever, so they'll be able to figure out the technology thing again. And they've learned about sharing and caring and stuff like that, so they're going to be fine. Maybe. Don't know. I just know that island cultures tend to be a little friendlier than their Western educational, industrialized, rich, democratic counterparts. So how would you feel if the answer was, the reason we're not hearing from aliens is because there are no aliens. We are the ones that are going to have to shoulder the burden for at least the next million years, or even the next couple thousand. That to me is scarier than any Dalek or Cyberman or Borg or Klingon. If we are truly alone in the universe, and that's just because of an act of genetic randomness. Now, I do believe that there's alien life. I won't be shocked if they go out and, there's that mission that they're proposing to go to Europa, which Arthur C. Clarke told them, all these worlds are yours, all except Europa, attempt no landings there, and now we're determined to go there. That'll be an interesting one. But they're going to bore down through the ice, and I'm sure they're going to find some type of plant, some type of fish, maybe not in the way that we conceive of it. But the thing is, organisms tend to evolve to fill specific niches. The crocodiles are an incredibly old family, and they've gone through 2 mass extinctions, and every time there's a mass extinction, they grow and they start coming out onto the land and fill the niche of, like, the brontosaur or the big land predator. And then the other animals start pulling back into those niches, and the crocodiles say, yeah, we're pretty good sitting in the mud being ambush predators. So while they say, and with all respect to Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's saying it looks too much like us, I'm like, probably because this is a pretty good blueprint. Now the human blueprint, okay, I got no argument with him there. But a fish works well. Hey, we designed torpedoes to look like fish because they're very efficient at swimming. Octopi, wonderful evolution. I mean, they're intelligent. They're able to get their way out of traps. They're a wonderful piece of evolution. And I mean, crabs. Have you ever heard of becoming crabs? There's true crabs, and there's this whole thing of crabs that have evolved to look like crabs. Basically, the plan starts with a lobster and then moves towards a crab. And more organisms are doing this because a crab is an efficient design. Monkeys, efficient design. Not necessarily the apex predator. As a matter of fact, most of the time they're not. But for the niche that they occupy, where they're in trees, they're chattering amongst themselves, and they still have enough rudimentary coordination to be able to pick apart a coconut. I don't know if you get coconuts in Africa. I know there's a lot of coconuts around the world, so I'm going to assume. But great apes, they have big strength because they're used to tearing up some hard to get to places, but they're also intelligent enough to know when to stand up to a creature and when to run away. They're able to use reasoning to solve problems. Chimpanzees and bonobos are closest relatives. They're incredibly intelligent because they need to use social cues. There seems to be language that they're able to use, although I always find this funny. We can teach chimpanzees, bonobos, dolphins, stuff like that. We can teach them to talk to us, but we haven't figured out their languages yet. If you notice, all those things, look at a dolphin, look at a porpoise. It's evolved its shape because it's the most efficient shape possible, same as a shark, same as a fish. It's the most efficient way for them to move through the water. Cat, dog, whatever you want to choose, a wolf, a cheetah, whatever it is, low to the ground, fast. Aside from the cheetah, a lot of endurance to be able to keep up. Maybe a lion would be better in that example. Things follow similar patterns because that is what works best in physics and in biology. We can't develop a propeller because our muscles simply cannot move that way. But that little tail, you whip it around and you're going through the water like nobody's business. So while, again, with all respect to Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I do disagree with him that aliens would have to look dramatically different than us, and I think they might be more like us than we think. There is speculation that the dinosaurs would have evolved to a humanoid body template if they were given long enough. And there's arguments before this and against it. But look at a dinosaur. What does it have? Well, look at the raptors in Jurassic Park. They have those dexterous hands, just like a human. They run fast. Humans run pretty fast, and we can also run pretty far. We have good stamina. Raptors have good stamina. Now, while they're hunched over and they have a tail, we've lost our tail because it freed our hands up from a lot of impediments of having to walk along the ground and stuff like that. The raptors were also able to walk somewhat vertical because they had their bodies erected upwards and they had their claws free so that when they attacked, they were able to make sure that everything was free for them to grab, a swipe at somebody, physically put them in a choke, which I don't know whether they would have the ability to choke, but the possibility was there. Unfortunately, we're 75 million years too late to find out what their hunting strategy was like, but we know it was at least as advanced as the wolves use. And the wolves, when they jump on and grab something, that's the way that they work. Again, similar body plans. So we might be being bombarded with signals that we don't know the first thing about. Like I said, if I handed you a telegram, would you know what to do with it? Receive telegram, stop. Proceed immediately to Main and Queen Street, stop. And they had, you know what telegrams had? They had short forms and codes and stuff like that. It was almost like emoticons. Because you know what? We have independently, I don't think anybody went from the telegraph to the internet and said, hey, we need this stuff that we had back there. We've independently re-evolved it because it's something that works. We can express things in a short way. I'd love to see a telegram that said LOL, but at the same token, they would have something that said lots of love. Maybe two people who had been lovers separated by a long distance would have a little code that they had worked out. But we still have that ability. We're still using it all these years later. So aliens might be sending us signals, and we can't translate them simply because we got the telegram, they got the internet, or the other way around. And that's the thing. Parallel evolution does happen, and the more we explore, the more I think we're going to find out. With that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Don't forget to click the bell icon in the description down below, and we hope you have a fantastic day.